This card is $90,000. Now let's be real, the only way that you or I are going to get one of these is if we steal it.
What?
I'm gonna steal it.
And that's actually what the creator of Magic wanted us to be able to do. Early playtests of Magic included cards that would let you permanently take stuff from your opponent, even after the game was over. Players were throwing games just so that they could keep the stuff that they had and somebody wouldn't take it from them with another effect. But a version of this did actually make it into Magic's official release in the form of ante. Players would have to wager a card from their deck, and the winner would get those cards after the game was over. Now, this might sound crazy given how expensive and collectible the cards are today, but think about it, it kind of makes sense. Magic is a trading card game, and at the end of the day, trading is just swapping cards between players. So something like stealing is really just mandatory trading. See, owning and trading the unique game pieces was something that was very important to Magic's design from the very beginning. Magic's creator, Richard Garfield, gave playtesters random piles of cards. None of them were the same. Now, that seems like it might make playtesting a bit unclear, but it was the entire point. Richard Garfield never wanted or expected anyone to have access to every single card or even know what all of them were. That limitation was what made the gameplay more interesting, an incomplete collection of cards. Your deck would depend on what you happen to get. Same goes for me, and then one of us might have things that the other person has never even seen. Now, trading cards will change how we play the game, and if we are forced to do that every time we play because the rules say so, well, the game is going to continually evolve every time we play it. Now, you wouldn't be wrong to think that a lot of that sounds obvious and self-explanatory, but back in the 90s when Richard Garfield was coming up with the idea of Magic, this wasn't already a massive successful genre. All he had to work with was trading cards. There was no game. Baseball cards proved that trading cards and distributing them in randomized packs could be a profitable, mass-producible business model, but baseball didn't involve a game. At least not one that you could play.
The pitcher could walk me, couldn't he?
Don't play lawyer ball, son.
Now, while baseball didn't have a game that you could play using the cards you bought, it did have these. Packs. And packs were almost perfect for the needs of Richard Garfield. He needed everyone to have incomplete collections of different stuff. However, their ability to make money is what would ultimately start to undermine Richard Garfield's original idea for the game that he was trying so hard to protect. The product was selling out and being marked up, and it was all about financial speculation. It was hard to get the cards, so hard that Richard Garfield feared for the longevity of the game. He thought that it was obviously something that threatened the ability of people to buy in and play what he had created. But there's one quote at the end of the article that I just cannot wrap my head around. Magic will sometimes be called a trading card game, a TCG. More often, it is called a collectible card game, a CCG. This time in my life has made me a staunch advocate for the term TCG, which emphasizes these as games and not a collectible. Now, while I love the sentiment behind that quote, I just simply don't understand where Richard Garfield was coming from. Trading was never the game that he was designing. Trading was, at the very least, a constraint of the product, and at best, a game mechanic that would propel deck building. The game itself was deck building. Early Magic wanted you to ask, what can I make with the pieces that I have? Deck building games keep the original question alive without depending on things that you permanently own. Slay the Spire offers you 3 cards after a fight. Now, this doesn't appear to be too different from opening a random pack, but the interesting question isn't whether I was lucky enough to find the card that I wanted to. 20 minutes ago during this run, I made a different choice. I'm gonna not take the block. Maybe I took more damage than I was expecting to after that. Oh, I probably should have taken that block. And I had to add some mediocre card into my deck just so that I could survive. Dude, I'm like 90% sure this is one of the worst cards in the game. I'm too low. I think I have to take this. It's so bad, though. Now, the cards that I just found mean something different. Summon 3, heal 5, retain. I cannot believe I am playing this card in my deck. I guess, bro. Hear me out. If I had not healed Asti and summoned, I would not be able to do this right now, which is kind of crazy. Choosing any card is always going to depend on the context because it's happening during the game. A card that I would skip at the beginning of one run might be exactly what I need halfway into another. The cards themselves don't actually need to change in that sense. The metagame and the larger pool of cards that the game offers to me doesn't even have to change. Richard Garfield's design placed the uncertainty of the deck building puzzle within the hands of the cards that you owned and how those would move around. Deck building games place the uncertainty more in the actual game state, all of the things outside of your deck. The deck building question, though, is the same. In one sense, Richard Garfield's original ideas were actually more elegant and compressed solutions than what deck building games offer. The only issue is it's outsourcing parts of the game that impact how it is played to the real world. If questions about deck building and your collection are key to what makes the game interesting, well, now the game's interest is subject to things like a secondary market or the price of cards. Deck building games do the opposite of this. They internalize all of those aspects into the game, and because of that, they're able to preserve them much better. Dominion was a tabletop deck building game that predates modern successes like Slay the Spire or Balatro. Dominion didn't simply prove that deck building games can capture the core experience of a TCG in a new way. Dominion had to take what was making Magic work, most of it outside of the game, and put it inside the box. So the cost of internalizing these game mechanics does need to be acknowledged, primarily because digital game design is really good at hiding that cost from the player. Now the computer can randomize cards that you see, update the shop, track all of these different interactions between your cards and relics. You get the idea. Neither of the approaches is simply more elegant than the other. Now, the entire reason that I made this video is because I've spent my entire life playing trading card games and only a couple hundred hours playing Slay the Spire 2. For some reason though, Slay the Spire 2 feels more satisfactory to my idea of a trading card game that I've spent my entire life with than modern TCGs. Now, I thought perhaps it had something to do with permanence or ownership, or even the fact that one was digital and one was physical. But I don't think that these are actual metrics by which we can figure out what's going on from a game design perspective. See, deck building games and trading card games are trying to answer the same question. How do we keep a sense of uncertainty in the deck building question? The deck building question and puzzle are more live in a game like Slay the Spire 2 than they are in a modern TCG, even though it's missing all of the physicality, an opponent, and the actual collectible experience. The sense of curiosity, improvisation, and discovery that I used to get from building decks and investigating a metagame just doesn't exist anymore, partially because of modern card game design, partially because the internet and optimization of card game strategies have become so good. However, I think it's also more than fair to leverage criticism at the people who take a game designer's idea and then strip the game away from it to make as much money as possible. So, where should we try to place uncertainty when we're making a card game? Should it be in the cards, the rules, split between both of them, or somewhere else entirely? Well, I don't have an answer to that question for you, but we don't need people to steal things from each other, and we don't need to create cards that become so exorbitantly priced that players will never actually have a chance to put them onto a table. This has been Seance, and as always, keep playing games.